Thank you so.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Hilary Topper, who is a CEO, blogger, podcaster, adjunct professor, and the author of From Couch Potato to Endurance Athlete. Hilary, how you doing?
Thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Of course, of course. Thanks for coming on. And we like to jump right in. So if you could start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
Sure. So I used to be a workaholic, and that's all I used to do. And at some point, when I turned 49, I started taking to running. And from there, I started to swim, bike, and run. And I would say that those are my passions right now because I absolutely love to swim, bike, and run.
Wow, you love cardio.
I do. And I don't just like to do it short. I like
Yeah.
to go long.
Ooh, could not be me. I love lifting weights. It's fun to me. I'll even go sprint, like I'll go run hills, but like long, drawn out, like slower cardio just kills me. But more
You
power to
got to
you.
find the right running group.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a bit more about what you do now. We have blogger, podcaster, CEO. Tell us about your professional life.
Okay, so my professional. So I'm the CEO of HJMT Public Relations. We're a public relations and social media marketing firm. And we've been around, oh my goodness, it's got to be like over 31 years. And so that's my profession. And I started blogging back in 2008, 2009. I have a hilarytopper.com, which is a travel, entertainment, lifestyle blog. I just write about everything from like somebody, I go out to dinner and somebody flashes their camera, at me, the light into my eye, and I'm ready to like have a fight with them, to going to 21 Pilot concert and reviewing that. um I just came back from Spain and Portugal, so I just did a series of blogs about that. So that's on my Hilary Topper blog. And then I have an A Triathlete's Diary.com blog, which I started in 2011. What happened was I originally was, I never ran a day in my life. And I just decided at 48, 49, I needed to change my life. I was getting fat. I was turning 50 and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to end up like my mother. I'm going to be like this, 300 pounds person that like doesn't do anything. So I decided to join a gym, and I joined New York Sports Club, and and I hired a trainer, and the trainer says to me, go on the treadmill and warm up while, I get everything ready upstairs. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I go over to the treadmill and I absolutely have no clue how to turn this thing on. I start asking people, who are running. Now I'm like, excuse me, while somebody's like on the treadmill running. I don't know how to turn this on.
That's
But
hilarious.
yeah, but I was showed and I learned, and I started slowly running on the treadmill, and then I took it outside. And the thing about it was that I started documenting my journey from the time that I went to the gym for the first time. And I had this, the blog was originally a runner's diary, and then it morphed into a triathlete's diary once I started getting into triathlons, which was several years later. My friend who I was running all these different events with, she said to me, I'm done with all of these running events. I don't want to do this anymore, especially after we had done the Brooklyn half. So we both signed up for this triathlon in Florida. And it's the rest is history. We had to learn to swim, bike, and run all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that is amazing. And so do you blog? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it?
I blog every day. I have, yeah. So I blog twice a week on hilarytopper.com and twice a week on atriathletesdiary.com. And A Triathlete's Diary not only documents my journey, but it also, like, I just got a bunch of pairs of Skechers sneakers, so I have to review those, to books on running or triathlon. Like, I've got tons of stuff I've got to review. And then I'll do race experiences and stuff like that, like all different types of things. Sometimes, people will come on and they'll talk about strength training, for triathletes, or so it's very eclectic, I guess you would say. And then I also have this podcast, and that runs once a week on Fridays. That's Hilary Topper on Air. So I've got 5 days a week. And then my HJMT blog, which I don't write, thankfully. Lisa writes that. And that runs once a week on Saturday. So we're actually putting out content 6 days a week.
Mm.
It's a lot.
That is a lot. Especially like long form written content. Like, it'd be different if it was like one TikTok, 1 30-second video every day.
Yeah, I mean, I do that too.
yeah, for sure, of course. But yeah,
I've been really liking Be Real lately. That's my I've been having a lot of fun with that one.
Gotcha. Yeah, the long form blog content so frequently. That's impressive. That's impressive for sure.
Thank you.
Well, awesome. Tell us a bit more about your motivation. What really gets you up and keeps you going every day?
So in the beginning, it was really tough, right, to get myself going because, it's cold outside, or if it's raining outside, you don't want to go. But now it's almost like a habit. Like I have to do it, because if I don't do it, I don't feel good. Like, I don't physically feel good unless I do something in the morning. And the last couple of days, I've been doing it in the evening, which is unusual for me because I'm usually I'm up at 4. I usually kind of get the day done.
What time do you go to sleep if you're up at 4?
I go to sleep really early. I am such a nerd, my poor husband. He's, he likes to stay up late. He likes to, have a couple of drinks. I'm like, no, I can't drink. I have to go to bed. I have to get up early. I'm like such an old person.
When you say early, are you talking like 9 p.m., 8 p.m.?
Yeah. I mean, there are days that I will go to bed, like today after we meet, I might just go to bed.
That is epic. And are you on the East Coast or are you in Central?
Yeah.
Oh, you're on the East Coast. Okay.
Yeah.
So 7's not too bad. It's still kind of bad. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. So sorry, I got caught up being shocked that you wake up at 4 a.m. So what gets you up and keeps you going? It's just the habit and the discipline.
It's a habit at this point, I know when I get finished with a workout, or when I'm doing a workout, like say I'm going swimming, I know that I'm going to feel so amazing afterwards. And that's the driving factor.
What about knowing that you're going to feel so bad doing it?
Well, I don't really think of that. I just take it moment by moment. Yep. You know what I mean? First of all, from someone who never knew how to swim, I'm now pretty, I'm not saying I'm fast, but I am an endurance swimmer. I just did a 5K over the summer in Detroit, which was amazing. And last summer I did a 5.5 plus mile swim from Fire Island to Bayshore, which is the ferry route. And I recruited my son to be my kayaker. Now, so for me, I wasn't a swimmer. I wasn't, I didn't, I doggy paddled at best. I could float, I could doggy paddle, but that was pretty much it. I mean, maybe do a little bit of backstroke, maybe a little bit, but that's it. Like I would never put my face in the water. And now I'm doing these like crazy events that are just so, I find them like exhilarating. It's just, to me, it's like exciting. So I recruited my son as a kayaker, and I didn't realize that he only kayaked a little bit, like in a pond, in a little blow up thing. I mean, there's no current or anything. So here I'm putting him into like an ocean situation on a kayak that we borrowed from somebody. He had never used this. And when the current came, it swept him off. And I was following him by swimming. He was like supposed to be my eyes, right?
Yeah.
So I was following him. So the two of us were so off course, we're at least a mile or so off course, that the volunteers had to come and get us and direct us back to the actual course. So it took me 4 hours of swimming, continuous swimming, to get from point A to point B. And it was probably more like 7 miles instead of 5.5 miles. But in the middle of it, the weirdest thing happened. I have a Garmin, watch. And all of a sudden, the Garmin went dead. It was like the weirdest thing. Nothing. It was almost like time stopped for like 20 minutes or a half hour or whatever it was. So I had no idea where I was, how much time I had spent. And when I came back to look at the watch, it said I was only out there for like 2 hours. And the guy was like, "No, you're out here for 3.5 hours already."
Wow. That is
so I was the last one in, and I did get a trophy as for best endurance.
There we go.
And I got a lot of cheers from all the volunteers and boaters out there, because all the boaters were following me in. I was the last swimmer.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that, because that can be really dangerous if you just get too fatigued out there in the middle of the ocean, right?
Yeah, it definitely, it's definitely, that's why you go with somebody like a spotter. The one that I did in Detroit was in lakes, and every mile they had a rest stop, so they had people kayaking and, on stand-up, paddle boards and stuff, just watching the swimmers. But if you needed a break after every mile, you could take a break. With this, my son was handing me, gels and, and water. We'd be passing it back and forth. I'd stop for a second, just to give him. It was just so funny. And and he loved it. It was a great experience for both of us. I mean, he just was smile. Like I saw him smile at me, and just my whole being just melted. It felt so good.
Yeah, I love
to do it with him.
That's such a great story. Such a great story.
Thank you.
Well, awesome. Now we're going to jump into your dreams and goals. So tell us a little bit about your vision for your life, your company, and just all your cardio that you're going to do going forward.
So I have tried 4 times to do a half Ironman. And every time that I'm just about there, something happens. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody would say, well, maybe it's meant to be that you don't do a half Ironman, but that's one of my goals. I would like to do. I've done a half Ironman as an aqua bike, but not as a swim bike run. So that's what I would like to do. That's one of my goals. Um, and, you know, I guess just be happy and share my knowledge with other people. I mean, the thing about my book is I wrote it not to write about my story and my documenting my story. I wrote it so that people would get inspired and motivated and feel like, you know what, if that girl could do it, I could do it. It doesn't matter how old you are or how heavy you are. We come in all different shapes and sizes, right? Like you not every triathlete or swimmer or cyclist or runner even is, thin, svelte. That, we come in all different sizes, and just that you can accept yourself, and I think that for me is really important because it took me a really long time, and I really want to help other people learn that it's okay, that you can do this.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I love that. And what are the top 1 to 2 skills that you need to develop personally, that you personally need to develop to be able to share your knowledge to the extent that you want and do that half Ironman? Do you feel like you're prepped for the half Ironman already?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm prepped for it. I do need to get a little faster on everything, but that'll come. I'm really not worried about it. What I've done is I've constantly furthered my education. Like, you know, for my professional career, I ended up getting a master's degree. Like I'm constantly reading and learning about, digital marketing and PR and that type of thing. For my triathlon journey, it's the same thing. I went out, I got my USA Triathlon coaching certification. I'm a level 1 coach, and I also am a running coach through Roadrunners Club of America. And, so I have these certifications, and, I could share my knowledge with somebody, and I could get somebody to do a half Ironman or even a full Ironman. I mean, I have, definitely can help. And I do. I have clients who I work with now who are, who are training for these types of events. And I'm definitely able to get them there. It's just, getting myself there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that. And so, do you also coach people to be
Yeah.
elite athletes? Gotcha. We left. I maybe I didn't hear that, or we left that out. But
We left it out. Yeah, we left that out. I mean, yes, I do. I actually have I have a We Are Endurance triathlon team. It's an international team of endurance athletes, triathletes, cyclists, runners, swimmers, from all over the country, all over the world. Actually, I have a couple in different countries. And during the season, I provide education. Like we'll have webinars on, strength training, or webinars on how to get faster on the bike, or how to do the run walk method, or, stuff like that. And I'll get speakers, or I'll recruit people from within the group to give, a peer-to-peer type of webinar. And then I also have a running group. It's a run walk group, and we meet once a week, usually on a Sunday, and we run at different parks, and it's pretty incredible. They're a great group of people, and it's just very motivational, to have that group, to have that community.
gotcha. I love that. That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, these next questions might be a little redundant, but I bet you'll have some quick answers. What are the highest impact daily actions that will kind of tick the needle forward for your dreams and goals right now?
Well, just doing what I'm doing. I mean, I think the most important thing, if anybody, wants to do a triathlon or even any kind of an event, is to just be consistent. That's the one thing I find that, when I'm coaching, a lot of my athletes aren't as consistent as I'd like them to be. I'm very consistent, with myself. So I'd like others to be that way, but I have to kind of relax and say, you know what, everybody's different. We all get there, it's just we get there different ways.
For those of you who are just listening and you're not watching this on YouTube, Hillary's face got extremely serious when she said, I'm very consistent. So we know that she is extremely consistent. And I think that is such an admirable trait. Can you talk to us about consistency? Were you always an extremely consistent person? How did you build that if you weren't? Just tell
I
us
think
about.
I think I always was. The thing for me is that when I was growing up, right, like I wasn't really encouraged in school, and I really wasn't encouraged by my family. Like I didn't have that encouragement. My parents felt like, what do you need to go to college for? You're a girl, get a job as a secretary, get married, somebody will take care of you. I mean, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So anytime when somebody put me down or told me that I should do something, it motivated me to do something else. And it was funny because I go to Weight Watchers too. And this woman at Weight Watchers said the same thing, an older woman, much older than me. And she said, the rebel in me comes out, when somebody says, you can't do that. I want to do that. She says to me, so, but, the thing of it is that, by being put down like that, like by always, people not encouraging, I had to find it within myself. And I remember my grandfather said to me once, just shoot for the stars. And I would think to myself, like, how can I do that? Like I'm from, lower class family. My parents were working, just like working people. Like we never had enough money for anything. It was always like a big issue in the house. My parents were always fighting. It was just a lot of negativity. And I was like, how can I shoot for the stars? How can I become a positive person if I'm surrounded by negativity all the time? And so I had to kind of find it from within me, to like say, you know what, I am grateful for the things that have happened to me in my life. They've led me down this path, and I am grateful, and so I don't know. I did a roundabout answer there.
Yeah, yeah. So you are always consistent because you needed to be, because you didn't have that support and encouragement, but gratitude kind of reinforced consistency throughout your life.
I do believe that. Like I think that, just being grateful for what I have, what I've had, even if I didn't have much, it took me on that path to something better. I knew that I was not going to be like my parents. I was not going to be struggling all the time for money. I wasn't going to go there. I didn't want to be that person. And so I worked really hard. I put myself through school, worked full time, went to school at night, the normal kids, what normal kids do. Not all kids, but
Yeah.
So but that's what I did, and I worked full time all the time, and that's how so I always had that drive in me to go that extra mile, because I knew that was my motivation. My motivation was not to be like them. And I didn't want to melt away like them. My mother passed away really early in her life, and she didn't take care of herself, so
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, if there were one or two people that you could meet right now, and this could be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you get to that half Ironman or get the word out there about the message you want to spread, the knowledge you want to spread, who would that person be and how would they help you?
Well, people like you, Tim, with this show, Living the Dream. I mean, it's people that I meet along the path who will help me get the word out that, no matter how old you are, how big you are, whatever you are, whatever, you can do this. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. You could do this. You've got to reach within yourself. And, it's people like you who will help me get that message out.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And now we're going to jump into our thriving three. First question is, what's your favorite book, movie, or podcast? Pick one.
Well, I think I mentioned that Living the Dream was one. I also, I know it's not a movie or something, but I do love Survivor. I'm like a big Survivor fan. I just love it. I love that show. I think I've just been watching it every single season since it's been on. And it's just, I like reality shows, like especially that, because it's put in a situation where they just have to figure out how to get through this and win that money.
Is there a part of you that wants to be on Survivor?
It's funny because my daughter's friend had asked if I would apply for the show. And I'm like, no way. Yes, there's a part of me that would want to be on it. But honestly, I don't think I can go without the food and do that.
I got you.
Very cranky.
I gotcha. Well, awesome. The next questions in our thriving three are, what's one way you like to care for yourself? I assume it's cardio, running, swimming.
I would say that it's probably doing like a massage.
Oh.
And meditation. Like when I do try to meditate. I try to meditate every day. It doesn't always happen, but I just want to take like 10 minutes out just to sit there and just unwind my mind. And I feel so much better when I do that.
Yeah.
And massage and going into a hot bath that has Epsom salt is wonderful.
There we go.
I guess it was be self-care.
I love it. And what is one action step you can take right now or continue to take if you're already doing it to meet more people like me that will help you spread your message?
Wow, that's, I think it's just people word of mouth, you might know somebody or, who needs this or that type of thing. It's just trying to get out there, go to libraries, on book tours. And I've been doing a lot of book tours. I've been going to a ton of Barnes and Nobles and some independent bookstores, giving book talks on the book, reading a chapter. And that's been really helpful too. And I'm meeting people along the way who are just totally blowing my mind, like so inspiring to me. Like I meet people like you and I'm like, oh, this guy is amazing. Like you just can tell, like you start talking to people and you feel really good about them. And those types of people you want in your life. You want to keep those positive people around.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. Well, we got a couple more questions for you. And these questions, I didn't really send them beforehand. They can get a little personal. So if you don't want to answer them, just be like, I'm going to pass. That's totally fine because I didn't send them beforehand. And the first one is, what is one limiting belief that continues to pop up in your life, if any?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think this happens to a lot of people, is that we have like a negative head. Mm. I'll give you an example. I went to Spain and Portugal with my husband, and then my son decided he wanted to join us. It was really cute. So the three of us went, and we just came back a couple of days ago. And while we were there, it's a lot of walking, and it's a lot of uphills, like steep uphills and steep downhills, and a lot of stairs, up, down. And my knee's been really, kind of not so great. I had meniscus surgery last October, and it's been a year, but it's still giving me issues. So in my head, and they're like flying up up and down the stairs. And in my head, I'm saying to myself, what is wrong with me? Am I a loser? Like that I can't keep up with them, so it's these like negative things that you think about, like during a race, oh, I can't do this. I'm no good. I'm not as good as everybody else, so you get that. And, then you need positive people like my son who says to me, Mom, don't ever say that about yourself. You're not a loser. You're an amazing person, and I'm so proud of you every day. Like, somebody like that kind of takes you out of it. Or you say to yourself, no, I'm going to wipe that away, and I'm going to move forward and not have that thought in my head. And we all have those thoughts.
Oh yeah, for sure. Where do you think those thoughts come from for you?
Well, for me, it definitely came from my childhood. Like, I definitely was put down a lot, like by my teachers, by my parents, so it just comes back to me. It's just something that I'm fighting all the time, like my mother always felt like we weren't good enough, like everybody else was better than we were,
Yeah.
And my teachers, I remember I used to have this like huge woman who was my English teacher, and she was such a nasty person. And she loved the guys, but she didn't like the girls. I mean, and so for me, she just was like, you're never going to amount to anything, and having her in my life, even though she was such a terrible person, it actually helped me, because I go for my master's degree and I'm like, screw you. I could, I become a CEO of my own company, and I grow the company to, a big, I had a very big company a few years back. I had about 25 people working for me. And I said, screw you, yep. I could do this. So that's yeah.
There we go. There we go. I love it. Do you have any actions like to this day that you may do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, sporadically, whatever it may be, that reinforce some of these negative beliefs that come to your head? That kind of the actions stem from the negative beliefs, if you're picking up what I'm putting.
Well, so what I do is before I'm in, I do kind of feel a little nervous, when I go into like a big networking situation, like I feel, or, I teach a class, and that first day of class, I always get nervous, that I'm teaching, and, will the kids like me? Will they, how are they going to respond to me? So what I do, and this may sound like a little bit crazy, but I do a self-talk. I like coach myself. And I do that like sometimes even on the bike, like I'm doing interval training, and I'll start coaching myself. You could do this. You got this.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And I coach myself like before I stand up in front of the class, or before I go into a network. You're good at what you do. You got this.
I love it. I love it. And so before you even let yourself get to the point of acting based on those thoughts, you start to coach yourself so you act based on different thoughts.
Correct.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. If you were to change those thoughts that you have when they pop up, some of the negative thoughts, to more of an abundant phrase that speaks to your heart, what are some of the things that you say to yourself when you coach yourself? I know you already gave us some examples, but if you could elaborate a bit more, that'd be great.
I mean, it depends on the situation. I mean, even like the title of my book, I write a portrait of a non-athletic triathlete, and somebody, called me out on it, and they're like, you're athletic. What do you mean you're non-athletic triathlete? So I think that I will say things like, not only you got this, but you're good. You're good. You're strong. You're beautiful. I'm not buying into this like old thing, like, yes, I'm older, but I'm not buying into that. Age is a number, right? Like, that's not going to define who I am.
Yeah.
So I just try to take a breath in and just think about good things that I do, and that I'm a caring person. People like me, people want to be with me, I'm positive, I'm upbeat. I could ride faster than 15 miles an hour.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. And where did you learn to kind of catch your thoughts, change them, and then act based off of better thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if it just came with time. I mean, I did go to therapy. I admit that. And I'm still going to therapy. I've been seeing this woman since I'm like 20 years old. I mean, this is a long time that I've, been talking to this woman. But it helps me because it helps me to release things, and get them off my chest, and, then send them on their way. I used to just hold things in, and that was really not a good thing to do, especially if I was like upset with somebody or somebody did something. And then I'm not really good at confrontation. So I would hold it back, and then I would get angry, and, it just didn't work.
That ain't it. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we got one last question for you. And I want to frame this next question. Alex Hormozy said that the difference between manipulation and help is intent. Like in both scenarios, you're influencing people, but the intent is a little bit different. So there's a common saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I actually found out from Dr. Alan Leica, who was a guest on the show, that you can make a horse drink. You just have to salt its oats. Now, I want you to think about a person with a really fixed mindset. They're not willing to accept help. They're not willing to accept change, but they also hate their life. So they're not content where they are. They really don't like where they are. How can we, you and I, create an environment to salt their oats and help them change their life?
That's a really good question. And that's a tough one. I really think that people need to want to help themselves. I think if somebody is really negative, and I know a lot of these people, and they are very negative, and that negativity just draws bad things to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you're putting out in the universe. Yeah. And so as much as you can tell them, and, I know my brother like goes through this too. He probably won't listen to this, so it's okay that I could talk to him. But he does get like negative. And, I don't know. It's very difficult for me, to coach him, to make him feel good about himself, and I try, but it almost becomes, detrimental to myself sometimes, when certain, not just him, but like there's other people in my life who are very negative, and they talk about the same thing all the time, and you can't seem to get through to them. So I don't know. I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I mean, that's a good question. I wish I knew the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's really got to be from within that person. I think people are happy being unhappy. I think my mother was like that. Like, she was always unhappy. So, but she liked it. Like, she thrived on that.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy. It's not healthy, and it's not gonna give you a good life. Like, you just need to, you know, get out there and be with people who are positive and try to shed that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the harsh realities. I'm gonna probe a little bit more here. So before on the podcast, I used to ask people, what do you think the catalyst is for people who have a fixed mindset switching to more of a growth mindset? And almost everybody would say, um, one, you got to have a personal choice, and two, you got to have either some outside catalyst of either extreme inspiration or extreme desperation. Do you think there's any way we can jolt extreme inspiration or extreme desperation into an environment consistently to help people make that personal choice? Or do you think there
Wow.
aren't realistic ways to do that? Like, for example, I can think of taking somebody to a Tony Robbins event, but you can't have them at a Tony Robbins event every day for the whole year because he only holds so many events, you know? So I'm just trying to think through ideas that we can do that in our everyday life of like either inspire people or show them their desperation of like, if you keep living like this, you only have a year to live. Are you okay with that? Stuff like that. So,
No, I totally get it. I mean, I think that was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, was because I wanted, I really wanted people to know that it's okay. You don't, there are so many people out there who feel like, if I'm a runner, I have to be a 5 minute mile runner, right? Like, I can't be a 15-minute mile runner, but who says you can't, right? Like, and I think I guess that was my driving factor, was that all the books that I was reading for my podcast were all about these elite runners or middle of the packer runners, but nothing about the back of the packer runners. Those people who are, I mean, it's taking them, you can finish an Ironman in 18 hours or 17:30 or whatever it is, 17 hours, 30 minutes, and they just get there in the nick of time, or they may not even make it to the cutoff, but they just continue to go on their route. Those people inspire me. And I'm hoping that through this book, From Couch Potato to Endurance Athlete, that I can get people to change their mindset about changing their lives, because if you want to do it, you could do it. You got to just want that. You've got to see that other people are doing it that, maybe aren't, you look at my body. I don't look like a traditional athlete, but I'm doing it, and if people can see that, I'm hoping that inspires people.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Hilary, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and these were some great questions.
Of course, happy to ask them. Do you have anything else that you want to chat about before we sign off?
Well, I'm going to be doing a bunch of book tours around the country. I just did about 10 of them, and I have a bunch coming up. I have one in New Jersey. That's on the 22nd of the month. And then I have one in Austin in December. And
Hey, I'm in Austin.
doing a bunch. Are you in Austin?
I'm in Austin.
No way. Well, you're coming to my book tour.
There we go. And you said it was in December?
Yeah, it's no, it's November 30th, I believe. I'm gonna put you on my mailing list. I'm gonna start sending you information about it, so you have no choice but to come. So I'm gonna be in Austin. I think it's November 30th. It's 6 o'clock at night in Austin. And then I'm gonna be in Denver and Boulder in November. and then Sarasota and Tampa in January. So I got like a lot coming up, but you can find out my tour dates on atriathletesdiary.com/endurance book. If you go to the book section of my website, you'll see it. And so all my tour dates are there. And what else? And you can get the book either by Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, or I also have an audio version of the book for those of you who may or may not love to read. You know, a lot of people like to just listen to books. So I made an audio version and you'll hear me crying. Yeah. So it's atriathletesdiary.com, and you can find me on every social, on everything really, at Hilary Topper.
There we go. There we go. Well, Hilary, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Tim. I
Of
appreciate it.
course. And if you guys are listening to this and you loved what Hilary had to say, make sure you watch out for her tours. Make sure to grab a book, leave a review, and buy one for a friend, and then send it to them. Thank you guys for watching the show. We will see you on the next one, and we're out.